Hello everybody, I'm Mark Gatto and welcome to the Advisor Lab. We're coming to you today from sunny Miami at the Future Proof Conference, and I'm joined today by Caleb Silver, Editor-in-Chief of Investopedia. Caleb, welcome.
Thanks for having me, good to be with you.
Wonderful. Is this your first Future Proof event?
Or our fourth, we've been here from the start. Investopedia has been a proud media partner with Future Proof. Before it was actually Future Proof, so we've been at the Huntington Beach Festival, but this is first citywide for us, and what a great debut for this wealth festival. This is kind of the future of what this should be, and what all wealth conferences should be, because look at the networking,
it's incredible. It's incredible, right? It's incredible. The energy here, and I think the willingness of everybody to communicate and share ideas and thoughts is second to none when you consider most conferences of this nature. So they do an amazing job, and I think it's important that everybody's coming together at this time of year, because everybody is learning about what's happening in the marketplace, and we at Scion, as an alternative investment manager, we really focus on education, right? Education is really important. We think that advisors are now, and you can tell by the attendance, they're now really starting to embrace alternative investments, but a big part of that process is education. And Investopedia is, one of the leading media companies out there that help advisors and clients learn about investing. It could be a very complex area. So just talk about a little bit the importance of education and how advisors should utilize what's out there to educate their clients.
Yeah, we'll just take this conference for example. This is Future Proof was put together as an advisor for advisors by advisors, and that just translates into people sharing ideas, how I'm talking to my clients about different scenarios, how I'm talking to my clients about different issues, how I'm working through issues with my own practice, and that's the very beginning of it, because advisors then take that knowledge and pass it on to us, their clients. Well, Investopedia, we have a lot of advisors, we also have a lot of individual investors who are seeking solutions, seeking to learn about something before they take action. We're 25 years old as a website. That's like 250 years on the internet. So we've got a lot of data on what people have been looking for throughout various cycles, and that could be, through the great financial crisis, through the COVID cycle, through this particular cycle, and watching investor behavior and what they're looking for and the questions they're seeking to answer, and then watching how advisors are also seeking that information to translate it to their clients has been totally fascinating, especially in this environment. And you're right, all different types of different ways to solve the problem now are now popping up again, because things are very different.
And what are your advisors that utilize your service, that you talk to, what do you think they're looking for in this environment?
Yeah, how do I explain ... to my clients? And that could be the implications of tariff increases, that could be the implications of new asset classes that are now available to retail investors, private credit, private capital. A lot of that has not been necessarily something that we might want to put into our portfolios, but now we can. A lot of wrappers that can help us do that, a lot of ETFs that can help us do that. So they're looking to understand it and then learn from one another how they're explaining it to their clients. We actually give our advisors, we have a newsletter that goes out to about 15,000 of them, but also PDFs, downloadable PDFs that they can hand to their clients when they meet them in person, because they found that just giving them something to read versus sending them links is super important.
And how do you find that process of educating the advisors and ultimately the clients? We at Scion are often quite surprised how much advisors really need to know in a certain asset class, like private credit. If you look back 5 years ago or 10 years ago, nobody was really talking about it, and it seems so obvious, like what private credit is, but a lot of advisors were very uncomfortable with it 5 years ago, and now they're obviously embracing it in huge amounts. But why is that, though?
Well, we went for a very long time with a dynamic called TINA. There is no alternative, right? We had 20 pretty good years of stock market returns, except for a few big sell-offs in the great financial crisis, and then obviously during the COVID pandemic. But we also learned that there was no moral hazard, right? When we got into trouble, whether it was an economic crisis or whether it was a stock market crisis, we knew the government would pour money into the market via whether that was stimulus money or whether that was flooring interest rates, and stocks were the only game in town until Bitcoin came around. But it's been a very cold a couple of decades for various markets until the last 6 months or so, where all of a sudden alternatives, things like gold are now in vogue again. Not that it's an alternative, it's as old as time, but you're looking at different ways that you can generate alpha when you can't necessarily depend on the equity returns that we've enjoyed and the simplicity of those equity returns. Now, a lot of that came because of the passive ETF revolution, right? But we're in a much different environment right now where you need different solutions, and the tax consequences of different solutions are complicated, and that's why we need a lot of education to make sure people understand what they're investing in and how that can help their portfolio if they do it in a tax efficient way. I think that's what advisors are looking to learn most about right now.
Okay. And then 25 years in business, a lot of information, you've seen a lot of cycles, a lot of different administrations. So what are you expecting with this administration? There's been a lot of policy fog, if you will, where things are changing by the minute. And how do you think that's going to impact the markets and the way advisors and investors think about investing and in particular alternatives?
Yeah, I think it's just going to get more complicated and very hard to sort of predict the future because it's very unpredictable, especially with this administration. I don't think we know yet what the implications are for what that means to our capital markets. We know there's been a very big shift underfoot right now, and there was already a drumbeat of there's a deglobalization thing going on. That was already happening before this administration came. But all of a sudden, a loosening of regulation with more onshoring, with a sort of a turnaround, a turning upside down of the government labor situation, we have no idea how that is going to bleed out its way through the economy. So uncertainty makes people not want to do things, right? Big investors sell first and ask questions later. Retail investors like us, we contribute to our 401ks and our IRAs on a dutiful basis. If we feel skeptical about that, or if we feel an economic slowdown coming because of the uncertainty, we're going to slow way down on our contributions and on our purchases, and that is not a good recipe.
Yeah, we like to say it just makes the case for having a diversified portfolio, having an alternative allocation, because you can weather the storm and really try not to react to the volatility, right? Think long term. That's the best approach, especially in these types of environments. And in terms of communication, how do you inform advisors to communicate to their clients? I think it should be very frequently, right? Because an uninformed client is really a problem in a financial advisor's business, I think. And when they don't know something, they make unwise decisions. But if they're well informed, I think they have more patience and they feel more comfortable about the market.
Absolutely. Now you can overdo it in terms of communication on every market tick. If we have a big washout on the market and just start emailing your clients, don't worry, read this, read that. I think clients have very specific questions. Sometimes it's, why are we still in the Mag 7 given all of this? But I think it's also more like, wait, what just happened to my goals in the last couple of weeks with a big sell-off? Are we still on target? Did we adjust in the right way so maybe we didn't get suffer the full downturn of a correction, or have we pivoted? Are we still on track versus why am I still in this stock? Why am I still in that stock? So there's a way that advisors know with their clients. How do they like to be communicated with? Do they like a video message? Like to see me on my YouTube show? Do they like an email from me at the end of the day? Can I do a weekly call? You got to figure it out what works best for your clients and what works best for your style. But the way that we try to help that is by allowing advisors to talk to each other, right? Sharing knowledge, just like what's happening here at Citywide, sharing knowledge, just like what happens through your platforms and others, is kind of where that educational foundation really begins, and then it's passed on to clients. Now, as you know, clients are a lot more informed than they used to be, and can be much more informed. There's a lot more information out there, and there's a lot more media being generated by advisors, so they can get pretty smart on their own, and that makes for even better conversations, and that's the beauty of the educational journey between client and advisor.
Yeah, it is a process, it is a journey, and advisors need, I think, a lot of information to help them digest what's happening in the markets, and obviously Investopedia is a great place to go, and we really want to thank you for being on our Advisor Lab today, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
This video is for informational purposes only and should not be considered or relied upon as investment advice. It may not be copied, quoted, or referenced without Cyan Investment's prior written consent. Do not rely upon any opinions, predictions, or forward-looking statements contained herein. The views expressed do not constitute an offer to sell or a solicitation to purchase securities, nor do they constitute the endorsement of a particular asset class or investment strategy. Neither Scion Investments nor its affiliates and/or subsidiaries warrant its completeness or accuracy. Certain information contained in this video may constitute forward-looking statements that may be inherently unreliable, and actual events or results may differ materially from those reflected or contemplated herein. Scion Investments expressly disclaims any obligation or undertaking to update or revise any information included herein. The views expressed by the guests or participants are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Scion Investments, LLC, or any of its subsidiaries, officers, or staff. Please be aware of the real risk of loss in following any investment strategy. No investment strategy or asset class referenced herein is intended to be construed as investment advice. You should make an independent, informed decision regarding any investments or strategies only after reviewing all relevant offering or disclosure documentation with your financial professional, and after considering your objectives, risk tolerance, and best interest before making any investment in any financial product. Registered personnel should review any business development initiatives addressed herein with their respective compliance and legal departments. Coverage of such topics should not be construed as compliance or legal advice. It is at the discretion of each respective firm if such practices are consistent with firm policies and procedures.